Welcome to another edition of the Scruffy Ginger Podcast. I'm your host and your Scruffy Ginger, Matt Graves. It has been a long time since we have recorded one of these episodes, but super excited. I guess we're calling this season 2 of the Scruffy Ginger Podcast. But I'm super excited about our guest today, Zack Flowers, old-time college friend of mine, longtime Titans fan, and super excited to have him on. So, Zack, welcome to the pod.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
So, tell everyone just a little bit about kind of how you became a Titans fan. I know you're not originally from the area.
Yeah, so my family moved we're just north of Cincinnati, moved to Nashville, just south of Nashville in '99. And I'm, up to that point, I'd watched Super Bowls, just kind of done the normal, like every American watches football on these certain days, Thanksgiving, Super Bowl, okay. But, when I came to Tennessee, I was like, I like the sport. I want to watch it. And just happened to be 1999. And, I knew enough about football to know that the Bengals sucked and I didn't want to root for them. And so I chose the Titans, and they went to the Super Bowl that year. And I can still remember to this day the chair I was sitting in crying as Dyson came up 1 yard short. Yeah.
Dude, it's like that whole season was a ride, man. I mean,
seriously was.
Again, like we're not going to spend too much time on this, but it's just you get to that point as a state that has never had pro football. You get the opportunity, and 1 yard short, man.
Yeah.
Just 1 yard short. This year we experienced not that necessarily, but just being just a game short of going.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
At least this year, like by the start of the second half, you pretty much knew it was over. And so, like you kind of went into it, and once the Chiefs got on their roll, and I was like, well, this really sucks. But, at least you kind of had that feeling going into it, but
for sure.
But, it still hurt. It did not hurt as much as the Super Bowl loss, but
it
was painful.
It was more of just like a shock factor. Like the season is now over, and it's like,
yeah,
oh man, we had this like crazy second half run,
mm-hmm.
and but yeah, man, it was nuts. I mean, the Chiefs, they wanted it more last year. They were in the same position and got snubbed out or just got beat rather, and so they were hungrier, and hopefully that'll be us again this upcoming season.
Yeah, that's the hope.
That's the hope. Good transition into kind of a way we're going to get there. One of the big things we're going to talk about today is free agency moves, and we're both going to kind of divide it up by offense and defense and all that. But Titans have been pretty active, whether that's just cutting people or signing people, and we'll kind of talk about some of them more in depth because they have a little bit more emotional attachment to them. But first, let's start just talking about the division. And we're not going to talk about every single team's like signing, but like,
all right,
dude, the Titans are in a position now. I think it's our division at this point.
Yeah, I get the same feel. There's a couple of wild cards out there. I'm not really scared of the Texans that much anymore.
No.
The big concern there was, okay, how are you going to cover, Hopkins and Fuller and, whoever their third guy they decide to throw in there at any given moment. But now it's like, you maybe just have to worry about Fuller.
Yeah, we're good.
We can do that.
No, again, like maybe they'll sign one of those like top playmakers in the draft, but dude, I mean, you cannot. There's no excuse. For trading away. Like I don't care. And O'Brien's message was it was for the betterment of the team. And McNair, their owner or someone in the ownership family, said that he thinks that Bill O'Brien's bold moves is going to excite Texans fans. I'm like, what planet do you live on, man? You just traded away arguably the best receiver in the league, the only person that kept you in the game later, late in the fourth quarter, and it's. I mean, I believe most analysts have given the Texans an F.
Oh yeah.
As far as trade, their offseason went.
Yes.
You get David Johnson in return. I mean, okay, at one point he was a threat, but
3 years ago.
Yeah, and they already have running backs that we've been able to stop, and it just doesn't. They don't scare me anymore. Just kind of like what you said.
No, they don't. I mean, obviously you always have to worry about Hopkins, and we all saw in that playoff game, what he can do if you give him enough time.
Right.
But still, I mean, you're talking about a guy who could be double covered and still come up with a ridiculous catch, no matter how well you cover him. And that's gone now. So makes things a little easier as far as us on defense. We're trying to guard them. But on top of that, I mean, Texans defense was never their strong suit. I mean, they're good, but they're not a top 5, top 10 defense. What kept them in that was their ability to go down and score. Don't know how much you have that now. You still have that ability. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to diminish how good Deshaun Watson is, but there's also a reason why he was so prolific, and it's because he had the best receiving core probably in the game, or at least one of them. And you can't say that anymore.
Right. Exactly. The Texans are. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think Bill O'Brien's. I think the fans are going to call for his head at some point. So we'll see what happens there, though. The Colts. I mean, they have two big signings, but the biggest one's Phillip Rivers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've beaten Phillip Rivers before, so it is what it is. I mean, it's a 1-year deal.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens there.
I mean,
he's better.
Yes.
He's better than Brissett.
Yes, he is better than Brissett. He's not better than Andrew Luck. He's not better than Peyton Manning. So it's still one of those things you look at and go, okay, this is a beatable team. They're probably, in my mind, they're probably the closest true competition that the Titans have, just because they didn't lose a lot of players. And their quarterback is, better than the one they had last year. Is that something that I think that is keeping us from winning the division? No. But they are a better team on paper. But Rivers is almost 40, so we'll see.
Right, exactly. And for once, last year at least, you saw it was their defense keeping them in games. It was not their offense that they've been, quote unquote, known for so long. And the Jags, do we really need to talk about the Jags?
I mean, they're the Jags. And I mean, even at this point when they're trying to, ship out one of their best defensive linemen with Ngakoue, but okay, so what do you have on defense then?
Yeah, I mean, they traded away Calais Campbell to the Ravens, the guy who's basically the reason why Mariota got sacked 11 times in week 2 or whatever it was, 9 or 11 times.
Yeah.
I mean, and they traded away AJ Abuye. What are you doing? I get it. They have a ton of draft picks now, but as we have seen year in and year out, it does not matter how many draft picks the Jags have. They will draft a kicker before they draft a playmaker. So it's the Jags, man. It's the Jags.
They were the ones that drafted the punter in the 3rd round, right?
Yeah, and I was trying to remember exactly where what team or what college he came from, but I remember seeing that being
it was
like,
Cal.
oh,
It was Cal, I think, University of
classic
California.
Jags.
I think it was
Classic.
California. I'll look it up later.
No, it's all good. Anyways, so I think the Titans are set up well to make a run for the division with now the new playoff structure.
Yeah.
I mean, the Titans have always been on the bubble, it seems, in the past several years because we haven't been able to win the division. And now it's as long as we just keep doing what we're doing, it's not where I mean, you never want to say you're guaranteed a playoff spot, but it seems like, I mean, we just got to be in the top half of the AFC.
Yeah, we basically have to play like we've been playing the last 3 years, and we'll be in the playoffs. But I also think we can play better than that. I mean, you talk about the transition from Mariota to Tannehill last year. I mean, I'm the biggest Mariota fan you'll find around here, but I mean, I think we broke him. Sorry, Marcus. But there was such a drastic change from being 2-4 to a playoff team, and then to the AFC Championship. So like, if we can play like that, like we're gonna have no trouble, making playoffs, let alone probably winning the division if we can play like we did the second half last year. But even if we don't, even if we regress a little bit, just a little bit, we still have a pretty decent shot at making playoffs with the new 17 format. So,
yeah, no, I agree for sure. Well, let's start. You brought up Mariota. Let's start with that one. I mean, huge. I mean, when I say it's a huge move, it's just because there's so much emotional attachment to that one. I mean, you just said you're a huge Mariota fan. Dude, I'll never forget where I was when we drafted him.
Uh-oh.
Trophy winner. I mean, dude, like, of course you're going to be excited. Of course everyone's freaking out. And he actually had a really good he had some good runs there. I mean, kind of broken up throughout each season. He had some moments where you're like, this can be our guy if we were just able to somehow give him the confidence he needs.
Yeah, and I mean, there was always the issue initially. It was, okay, you basically have one or two options for Marcus to actually be able to throw to it. So he was having to be on the run more. He was having to be mobile in the pocket more, just trying to buy time. Our offensive line wasn't the best it's ever been when he was under center. So, you're always running the risk of higher sack numbers and stuff like that. And then, so we started getting the receiver help. And then, like, it almost seemed like when we got him the receiver help that he needed, I mean, even talking about like last year and this year, getting him the weapons that he needed, it seemed like all of a sudden, like, the offensive line just like wasn't gelling. Like, it took until like probably week 10, I think, for like Saffold to finally feel comfortable on the offensive line. And it took a while there for Conklin too to kind of get back into it. So it was a weird thing to where it was like we have all these weapons and stuff like that, and there were games, like the Falcons game last year, when all of a sudden it would be just like Marcus just throwing dimes and hitting AJ Brown in the slot and Corey Davis and Jonnu and whoever it might be, like, and they're making all these plays, and then it seems like the offensive line is just like, oh, we're just going to take a day off, and it would get destroyed like multiple times. And like that Broncos game, for a Broncos team that just wasn't good, and we're getting handled by them. And yeah, it was so hard to watch because there was so much. I mean, even like up until that point, up until that Broncos game, like Marcus hadn't thrown a pick on the year. He was like 8 touchdowns, no picks, and then just because he had to force himself to try to make something happen, I think he threw 2 in that game. Then that was the end. They benched him and he was done. So it was just a hard way to see it kind of go out. Like, it would have been one thing if he was like, just a complete flop, and everybody knew it, almost like a Jake Locker type feel, just going like, okay, we spent this really high draft pick, and the dude just didn't care about football anymore. He just lost love with the game. Like, that's not Marcus one bit. He'd be the one out there like pouring his heart and soul onto the field, and it's just hard to see it end this way. But we all knew it was coming. That clearly we weren't going to re-sign him once Tannehill proved to be a top 10 quarterback. And
yeah, man, that transition. Again, like once he was benched, like the whole fan base was like, ah, shit. It was like, it's over. And not necessarily just because Tannehill like did something during that game, but you just knew that once he was benched, that it was it was his time. How do you think he's going to do as a Raider?
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't know if it's going to be something where he's just going to magically like regain all his confidence. Maybe with the help of John Gruden, that he can all of a sudden just kind of like, because John Gruden was like the biggest analyst that was like, Mariota's the next coming of, I don't know which, Steve Young, I guess. So like he had that kind of mentality going into the draft. So it'd be interesting to see if he can kind of get some of that confidence back. Like, I think he'll probably end up having an opportunity to play a couple games just because Derek Carr can't really stay healthy. So I don't know. I mean, I'm rooting for him. Like, I don't want him to like suck. So
right. Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, of course, like I can't really remember a player that that played for the Titans that went somewhere else and we were like not rooting for them. I don't know. I feel like we've always been really good to our players, and I mean we haven't really had any like just punks or like anyone where we're just like, oh, dude, you suck. Like,
I mean, I guess Pac-Man might fit into that category a little bit.
He had his moments. That was a long time ago. I guess since John Robinson took over, we haven't really had that issue.
No.
But another big name to leave the Titans, Delaney Walker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, somebody who has given. Someone posted his stats today. It was like 320-ish receptions, like 4,500 yards, and like 28 touchdowns or something like that. And some people might look at that and be like, oh, that's like maybe not as impressive, but as a tight end, like it's huge. I mean, he did so much for the Titans organization for the time that he was here.
Oops.
How to be a playmaker. I mean, he's 30. What is he? 32, 33?
Yeah, I think he's 30, 33, 34, somewhere in that range, I think.
Something like that. But dude's he's still outrunning like the top cornerbacks in the league. Like he's so fast, dude. So
I know.
It was definitely hard to see him get cut. But again, it's one of those things where you see Jonnu Smith, you see Ferkser, and you see Pruitt really stepping up this year. Okay, they're all younger. We can get them for cheaper. It's just, I mean, Jonnu's still under contract, his rookie contract. So, I mean, again, it's kind of one of those things that you just knew that like once he had gotten hurt, then officially like on the IR, you're like, okay, well,
yeah,
you assumed it was coming.
Yeah, it's definitely one you saw coming. Just, I mean, especially with the salary number he was going to carry this year, is, he could make that cut and only take a little bit and a cap hit and free up, multiple millions of dollars to, have some of these additional signings. But yeah, I mean, it's still, he he was like the only playmaker we had for
Yeah.
2-3 years. And you're talking about his stats, and that's especially kind of impressive when you consider that the Titans are consistently a run first team.
Yeah.
And he's still putting up Pro Bowl numbers pretty much every year that he was healthy. But again, I would definitely wish him the best, and I hope he finds success elsewhere. I just hope it's not with Tom Brady.
Dude, can you? I mean, you brought it up, and we can just go ahead and talk about it now because that is probably the biggest news of the entire NFL is Brady to the Bucs, man.
Yeah.
I mean, now, what's scary about that? Because the obvious comparison, well, not comparison, but maybe a situation comparison is like Peyton Manning going to the Broncos,
right,
and then having success there. I do not blame him one bit for choosing the Bucs. You look at Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I'm forgetting somebody, but dude, that receiving core, holy cow! I'm pumped up because I have Chris Godwin as a keeper in my fantasy league, so I'm definitely keeping him next year. But come on, man. He looks different. It's different seeing him in a non-Patriot jersey, but I don't know. What do you think? You think he's going to have success there?
The big issue there will be if the defense can keep up. Obviously we know that Brady will keep his team always in, competition and stuff like that. It's going to be whether or not the defense can keep up with it. So we'll see, but he can. The other thing that I don't think anybody quite knows yet, there were a lot of Patriots fans, especially after the Titans beat them in the playoffs, of sitting there going, okay, well, Tom Brady's numbers were down because he only had Edelman to throw to. Like, okay, that's fair. But I even think back to like 2 years ago when the Titans played the Patriots at home and just thoroughly whooped them. And Brady looked like a shell of himself. So I still don't know how much of it actually is he is actually now, like getting close to being in his mid-40s, 42,
yeah,
something like that, and like how much that actually is going to start playing into it. So now we'll truly know, I would say pretty early on this season, is it something that, he still has it and he is this weird freak of nature that can, play into his mid-40s at a high level, or if it was, he reached his end limit and was kind of masked by the fact that, everybody was still a little bit scared of the Patriots, and still had this illusion that, Tom Brady's invincible. So we'll find out quickly. I think he'll still compete. I still see him putting up, Jameis Winston put up giant numbers there. Not necessarily the interception numbers you want to have, but up really big numbers. And a lot of that was because of the receiving core that he had, that, just getting the yak after their catch. And, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know you were kind of talking, what are some other Titans updates on the defensive side that really, we all know the big one.
Yeah.
But talk about some of those for a second.
Yeah. So obviously the big one is Jurrell Casey being cut. That was one that not many people, I'd say probably any at all, saw coming. You had your obvious, your Dion Lewis, your Ryan Suckups, even your Delaney Walkers that people knew probably aren't going to be on the roster come, 2020. Jurrell Casey as a captain, as pretty much the outside of Kevin Byard, probably the only like truly known player on our defense, and probably the most underrated defensive lineman in the game. I still would say. Seeing him get traded for a 7th round pick, that was I was like, wait, we can't trade him for something more than a seventh. But I guess the part of that is too is that the Broncos were taking on a majority of his contract as well, and they're eating that cap space for us.
Right.
Clearly, we were clearing space for something. What that something is, we don't quite know yet. Um, so we will see on that additional. I'm sure there'll probably be an additional update on defense at some point between now and the draft. Um, um, so yeah, that was probably the biggest surprise, I would say. Um, and it hurts.
Yeah, I think and you made the good point of the reason why we couldn't get something more than a seventh round pick was because they were eating up his or taking on most of his contract, which for us is like I guess the equivalent, so that we can put that money towards Derrick Henry, or I
Mm.
guess maybe at that time it was Tannehill. I can't remember exactly which one fell first, Casey or Tannehill. Um,
Yeah, it was
but
Tannehill first.
Tannehill, okay, cool. So I guess putting that money towards Henry, um, which I mean, again, quick notes on Jarrell Casey, man. I mean, the dude has lasted multiple GMs for the Titans. I mean, he's clearly one of the top defensive linemen in the league, multiple time Pro Bowler. Um, I mean, you hate to see him go. I mean, he was that not only that captain, but he was he was the guy on the defensive line that you just knew was gonna get like you didn't have to worry about Jarrell Casey. You didn't have to worry about him like taking snaps off or
Mm.
um, you know being like, hey, coach, take me out. Like I'm tired. Like no, he
Yeah.
was there in the trenches every chance he could. Um, I mean, I guess too with I guess the what we saw with the production of Jeffrey Simmons, maybe that had
Yeah.
uh, helped the rationale of trading Jarrell Casey away, knowing that we have somebody that's in a rookie contract, that's younger, that's not necessarily. I mean, you can't say at this point like just as good, but I mean the dude is disruptive, and if we put another piece next to him, another young guy, I mean he was clearly Simmons was. We will look back and see that he was the steal of the draft, and he's already been said to have been guy I guess had that title, but 19th pick, the guy that was supposed to be at times was talked about the number one overall pick. Again, before like all the quarterback situation built up, but he was definitely a top five pick.
Yeah.
And then of course had that video come out about all that, and he had that was pre-college, but anyways, I think that Simmons production definitely had a hand in the whole Jarrell Casey deal.
Yeah, I think that did. I think also the well as Daquan Jones also, stepping up in big ways and being more productive, and I think that helps a lot too. I don't think we're done on the defensive line front. I mean, we did sign, Jack Crawford. He had like a half sack last year, so it's not like a huge signing, but it kind of fills an additional role, kind of next to probably like an Isaiah Mack or somebody on that interior that they're not going to be an every down player, but they're going to give us some depth rotationally there, which will help. But I still think we're going to need another piece up front because whether it's Mack or it's Crawford or somebody else, like we still need we still need a third true down lineman to really fill Casey's role. I don't think that's going to be Crawford. I don't know if we're drafting one or if we're going to assign a Jadeveon Clowney or somebody like that. We'll see. But I don't quite know there.
Well, people like the Jadeveon Clowney. There's a lot of talk right now where, the Jadeveon Clowney. Who would you rather have, Clowney or Logan Ryan? For whatever reason, that's the argument right now. That's the discussion going on. Which camp are you in?
So I've gone back and forth a little bit. I'm now in the Clowney camp, mainly because we're getting Malcolm Butler back. Adoree had to, step up and play big time last year, and he did a pretty good job about that. So you got two pretty good corners, especially because of all the different injuries. Adoree had some injuries. Obviously, Malcolm was lost for the year. Like, we've rotated in so many different guys between, Amani Hooker and Dane Cruikshank, and Ty Sims, like all these different guys who have rotated through. So like, we have guys that can fill, a third cornerback role. It's also easier, I think, to draft a corner. I think there's going to be more corners available, first, second round that can, step in and play pretty quickly. Clowney, you don't have a lot of guys that can. First of all, our biggest glaring need now on defense is replacing Drill Casey, more so than replacing Logan Ryan, just because we already had Butler in there. We had 3 quality cornerbacks. We're down to 2 quality cornerbacks and, some guys who can step in and play. That's less pressing as you have, 3 down linemen. 2 of those roles are completely filled. And then one of them, you're expecting a guy who had like a half sack last year to come in and fill. That's a big drop off from Jarrell Casey. So I just think there's a bigger need on the line. And I do think it's interesting that when Clowney's asking price was $20 million, like the report came out that said that, the Titans are out. And then all of a sudden when like Clowney drops his asking price, it's like, oh, the Titans and the Jets are back in. So
right.
I don't think you trade away Jarrell Casey to free up a bunch of cap space to bring back Logan Ryan. That seems less impactful, I guess. I would love to have both back. I don't think we can afford both. But I just think there's a bigger need on the line, and a bigger need in pass rush, which we did address with signing Vic Beasley. That's a 1-year contract. And Beasley has been up and down. He was more up last year than he was down. 2016, he had 15 and a half sacks. 17 and 18, I think he combined for maybe like 8 total. And then last year, I think he had 8.5. And I watched some of his highlights from last year, and there were a couple games that, he just looked, he looked unstoppable. Now that wasn't every single game, clearly, but if you can line Beasley opposite of Landry, and then have an interior of Simmons, Daquan Jones, and then, if you do sign Jadeveon Clowney, that's a scary front 5 right there. That is a scary front 5. And then you put Rashad Evans and Jayon Brown directly behind them. Like, that's a game-changing front 7. So that's where I land on that one. I just see the bigger need on the line than I do in the secondary.
Yeah, those are definitely some solid points. I guess I've gone back. Well, when the whole Clowney thing came up, before there was discussion of like either or, I was like, oh hell yeah! I was like, I'm definitely in the Clowney camp. Like that would be, especially now that we have like Beasley, someone that's only a few years removed from having 15 and a half sacks. Mm-hmm. Again, like, let's go. I know like we'd let go or cut Cameron Wake, who's, you saw it coming again, especially after he got hurt. You're like, we can't, dude. But so Spencer and I were talking. He was either on one of the last podcasts, or maybe it was maybe after we recorded, saying how Logan Ryan is one of the smartest people in the film room. And dude, he had a career year last year. His stats were so much better than the people who actually got into the Pro Bowl. It's actually pretty it's pretty insane the fact that he did not
Yeah.
he was not selected to the Pro Bowl. So
Yeah.
he definitely got snubbed. I think because of that, I think he's got, players will go to the press and be like, oh, like it is what it is. It's out of my control. But that pissed him off. Like that was,
Yeah.
for the players. I mean, if you're talking about a legacy, I mean, what's always attached, one of the first things people talk about is how many Pro Bowls you went to.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely hurt him for sure. But I still think, I mean, again, I think it comes down to what we can get Clowney for. Because if he drops somewhat considerably to like the 15 to 18 range,
Mm-hmm.
then I think go for it. I think 20 million. And you mentioned that his asking price dropped, and I'll let you talk on that because I'm not actually familiar with that. But 20 million when we're trying to, I mean, Derrick Henry signed his tender. We'll talk about that. So he's locked in for the Titans, at least on the roster. Hopefully he won't hold out, but I mean, you gotta understand if he does. I feel like when we're trying to find ways to get him to a long-term deal, I think that you pay Logan Ryan the $10 million a year that he's asking versus the $20 million that Clowney's asking. So, but talk about, because I'm actually interested. I don't know about if Clowney dropped his asking price.
Yeah. So this was, I want to say it was like 2 days ago, that Clowney had. I'm trying to pull it up just to make sure I got the right information here. That he dropped his asking price. I think it was down to 17. Let me find this. Yes. Per ESPN, John Clayton, New York Jets and Tennessee Titans have expressed interest in Clowney after he dropped his asking price to around 17 million per season, which is definitely less than 20 million, which then still leaves us, 6 million or so to play around with for any type of, rosters for the draft coming up. Pretty much if you do sign Clowney, like, that's it. That ball game. You're done in the free agency. You do it with Ryan. You can maybe add one more kind of piece here and there, but if we do sign Logan Ryan, I think we do need to still try to get another defensive line piece. I mean, even if that is we're shelling out $8-9 million for a veteran before we get into the draft, but it seems a little bit more doable with the 17. Again, that kind of plays back into the report that at 20 million, after a while, the Titans were like, yeah, we're done. And then when he dropped it back to 17, we immediately jumped back in. I think Clowney had to realize that 20 million was probably a little bit too much for most people.
Right.
Because, at 20 million, that would make him the second highest paid player on our team behind Tannehill. So.
Yeah. That's I think that, you can't blame Clowney. I mean, you ask high and then you talk down from there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's trying to, I don't know if he's got a family or anything, but he's trying to provide for himself, and if he has a family, his family. So I definitely don't blame him on that. But I do agree. I mean, 20 million is a little steep for someone who's already been a part of like moving around a team here and there.
Yeah.
I mean, just the Texans and the Seahawks, but it would be kind of amazing to have Clowney be the one to sack Deshaun Watson just kind of stick it to him a little bit, stick it to the Bill O'Brien and the Texans.
Well, you have that. So I think there is the incentive. So I think there's three like big incentives for Clowney coming to the Titans. Well, 4. 1, we were 1 game away from the Super Bowl. And our clear issue there was lack of a pass rush. So, okay, check 1. 2, He played defense for Mike Vrabel when he was the defensive coordinator at the Texans. 3, you have the chance to go up against the Texans twice a year and get revenge on your old team. And 4, there is no state income tax. And that has to play into decisions for a lot of these players that want to sign with the Titans, is the fact that going, okay, I don't have to give up more of my millions to sign with the Titans because I'll be living in Tennessee and I don't have to do all this extra money for it. So
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely got to come into play for sure. I think that, and I honestly I had forgotten. Not, I mean, now I if you had asked me, I would have known, but I had to be reminded that Vrabel had coached him.
yeah.
So there is definitely that connection there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Vrabel, especially now that he's the defensive coordinator, which
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole lot to talk about other than just stating it. I think that's going to be interesting because typically when you see head coaches being the play callers, it's typically on the offensive side. I mean, except for I guess the Wade Phillips of the world, whenever he was a head coach. But and I guess Jack Del Rio. I guess other people do it, but but I'm really excited. I mean, Dean Pease is a legend. It was awesome to have him as our coordinator for a couple of years. But I mean, the dude came out of retirement to coach for us, so he was already in that state of mind. And so being able to retire, and he's relatively old too. I mean, he's way past the retirement age, so you definitely can't blame him there. I really wish. Now, if we were going to sign a defensive coordinator, and I'm going off my sheer memory, you're a big Ohio State guy, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's. I was 99% sure on that, but I didn't want to be like just make a fool of myself. But
Oh yeah.
but I don't know about you. I was really hoping Kerry Combs was gonna be the defensive coordinator, but I guess he's a college guy through and through, and went back to Ohio State.
And I'm sure there probably was some discussion about promoting Kerry up to defensive coordinator. I'm sure there was probably a talk about that, but I mean, Vrabel pulled Combs from Ohio State, and that's when he was just at a assistant coach type deal. So being able to go back there as defensive coordinator and assistant head coach, like it's a pretty big jump, especially at a top 5 school in the NCAA, and he can make a pretty penny up there as well. It's not like they're having to deal with like, okay, we have X amount of money to spend on these coaches and stuff like. I mean, it's Ohio State, like.
Right.
We will spend whatever we need to spend to get the coaches we want. But I think Ryan Day is a prolific offensive mind. I think eventually he'll end up in the NFL. He almost did. He almost was our offensive coordinator, if you remember that, back before we got LaFleur.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess there was already conversation between Ohio State and Urban Meyer of going, look, you hang around one more year, you'll be the head coach of Ohio State. So, we do have a history of losing potential coaches to Ohio State, but it's a weird position for me to be in, and being like, yeah, we got an awesome coach, but at the same time, like, we lost an awesome coach. It's like, it's a dual mentality there that I have to deal with. But is what it is.
But yeah, I'm really excited to see what Vrabel does.
Yeah.
Taking over the role that he's done with at the Texans, and so super excited about that.
And the last 2 notes for the defense, defense / special teams, a 1-year deal for Correa, which I think is a great signing. The energy he brought in that Baltimore game was fantastic, and just always seems to be very passionate about it. And then on special teams, signing Nick Zubnar, getting younger on our special team aces was a good thing. 2-year deal there for just a fraction over $3 million. So that's not, there's nothing bad about that contract. But yeah, interesting for Vic and for Correa. They're both 1-year deals. So, if Vic Beasley doesn't work out, we're not carrying any, dead money into next year. It's just okay. Cool.
Dude, I mean, you brought that up, and I was actually going to make a note. John Robinson, big fan of the 1-year contracts.
Huge fan of 1-year contracts.
And I don't blame him for that reason of the if a player like Vic Beasley that you're signing for, what was it, 9.5 or something like that,
9.5.
Not having to carry anything over, or kind of figure out, okay, well, what are we going to do with him, and talk up to other teams about picking his contract up and all that. So, no, I'm all about that. I think there's obviously, and there's some players like the biggest contract for the Titans so far that you have to sign, obviously, to a multi-year deal. But Ryan fucking Tannehill, dude. I mean, talk about a payday.
that is a sizable payday. What
are your thoughts on that?
I'm okay with it. I mean, I had a long conversation with my brother-in-law, who's like a diehard Chiefs fan, but just talking about contracts and all this other stuff. So when we're getting him at about, I'm trying to remember what the actual breakdown of it is. And it's like, is it 20? I'm trying to remember what the actual,
it basically comes out to between 20 and 25 each year.
Annual contract value of 29.5. I mean, I'm really not against, you got to pay the man after what he did for you last year. I mean, I know there was always the toying around of going, okay, well, are we signing Brady? Are we going to go after him? Do we, sign Tannehill to a one, or do we tag Tannehill and, draft a quarterback? I mean, it's easier to, what you're going to get with Tannehill. I mean, you just do. Yeah. What he did for us last year was pretty consistent game in, game out. Yeah, I know there was people were complaining about you're going to give, this big a contract to a guy, and his 2 playoff wins, he only threw the ball 20 times or whatever it was. I'm like, yeah, but did you see the rest of the season? The way we got to that point, and the reason why we went so heavy on Derrick Henry in the playoffs was because no one wants to tackle a 240-pound running back in the middle of January in the cold.
Yeah.
No one wants to do that. So that's why you hand the ball off, and you hand the ball off, and you hand the ball off, and you hand the ball off. But I mean, you saw what he did in the second half of the season. The highest rated quarterback by Pro Football Focus. He was going to get paid somewhere, and I'm pretty glad it's here. It seems like the guys around him trust him, and it seems like he has a great chemistry with AJ Brown, with Jonnu Smith. Even some with Corey Davis. Corey Davis is kind of an anomaly right now that nobody really knows if he's great or if he's just a great blocker.
Right.
I still think he has the capability of being great, and I do think it'll be interesting to see next year, now that everybody knows, crap, we have to double coverage AJ Brown. There was a lot of double coverage on Corey Davis, his first 2 years in the league, just because there was nobody else. I mean, Tajay Sharp was good. But he wasn't, Tajay doesn't need to be double coverage. You can put one guy on Tajay, and if it's a good defender, they'll probably keep up with him. But you would have to double coverage Corey Davis, so there weren't a lot of targets to him. So it'll be interesting to see now that AJ Brown is clearly the number 1 receiver on the team. You got to double him. You probably don't want to just single coverage Jonnu, just because he has the ability to. I mean, heck, we can line the kid up in the backfield and pitch it to him, and he gains 57 yards for you. He's an insane athlete. So it'll be interesting to see how Corey does this next year. I think he has the potential to, have a much better season than he has in the past, just because we're going to be a more, I don't want to say pass first team, because we're not when you have Derrick Henry, but there's plenty more options for play action. There's also a much bigger capability for just going into shotgun and going, all right, we're going to throw it at you. And try to stop it. So, yeah, I'm fine with the signing. I don't really have much of an issue. And I mean, if you were going to try to go after Brady, you're talking about a 1 or 2 year deal where you basically put like everything on the line to try to win a Super Bowl like that. Um, at least
Yep.
with this, we can kind of still make sure our team is kind of secure for the next couple of years and make some runs at it. And not have to feel like it's like a complete win right this second deal that we have to get this done this year or else we might not have Brady behind us. And I mean, as the game increases and stuff like that, the cap, the free agency cap, well, that'll expand too. So, this 29.5 annual contract is not gonna, I mean, it'll seem a little bit less as the cap gets a little bit bigger and bigger, hoping that we actually play football this fall.
That's right.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, I mean, I am totally okay with the deal as well. Honestly, I went somewhat back and forth whether I wanted Brady or Tannehill, but there was always a pull uh, to be in the Tannehill camp.
yeah,
People at work were always trying to get my opinion, and um, I was like, honestly, like I like Tannehill. I mean, I watched every single game, obviously, and how can you not want him? I
yeah,
mean, I get it. Like maybe he hasn't had that kind of production over the course of his career, but I mean, Miami wasn't a good fit for him.
no,
He needed out. He needed out. He needed to be in a run. He and Brady, honestly, they need to have a great running game.
yeah,
Brady's a great in the play action, great on the quick slants. Um, but you need some like they need the box to be stacked
yeah,
uh, to be as productive as they can be. So
yeah,
I'm totally okay with it. I think that I mean the fact that he got paid as much as he did, honestly, good for him. Like he switched agents, the same agent that Derrick Henry has. Like I mean, it was like what 2 weeks before the signing or something like that.
yeah,
And I mean, whatever he has to pay his agent, worth it
mhm,
because I would be willing to bet that his former agent, the reason why he probably switched, was not going to be able to get him that kind of deal.
no,
So,
no,
um, I mean, good for him. If he plays like even if we only get 2 good years out of him, I think it's worth it.
yes,
I mean, obviously you want at least 3, but I mean, and you mentioned the window of like if we got Brady, it had to have been like we have 2 years tops to win a Super Bowl with this team. I think as long as I mean with Derrick Henry again, hopefully we can sign him before July 15th. I want him to have that. I want him to get paid.
yeah,
Again, uh, he's done way too much for the team to not get paid.
yes,
Um, uh, as long as he's on our team and Tannehill's the quarterback and AJ Brown is that receiver, I still think we have a 3 to 4 year window to win a Super Bowl with
yeah,
this team.
yeah,
At that point, I mean, you'll build and the team will change a little bit, but I do think the window is very short.
hmm,
Um, and the only reason that as a Titans fan you say that is because we've been so mediocre in the last like 15 20 years. Like we've been just a nobody in the league, and now that we have a team that was one game away from the Super Bowl, you always think short window.
yeah,
Hopefully we're going to be competitive year in and year out regardless, um, but anyways, I think that I totally love the having Tannehill on the team, all about it. Um, Derrick Henry getting the franchise tag. I guess this is probably a natural way to kind of end
yeah.
the conversation. What do you think about that?
Um, it was pretty clear that one of them were going to get tagged, whether it was Tannehill
Yeah,
or it was Henry. I mean, I would love to pay both. I think we will pay both, even if it's not this year for paying Henry. There's enough 1 year contracts out there. Whether it's Vic Beasley or it's Correa or like maybe between Beasley and Correa right there, that's 13 million. So like there's money right there that you could just go, okay, even if we're not signing him full term this year, it's going to be a pretty easy sell, I think, to go, hey, we're playing you on the franchise tag. It's our goal to sign you long term. If we can make that work during the regular season or before the regular season, that's awesome. But if not, just know there's this money that's tied up in a bunch of these 1-year contracts for this coming year that, once that's available, we'll send that money towards you. I don't think that's too hard of a conversation to have. It's pretty clear. I mean, especially the fact that Henry signed his franchise tender and is not doing the whole, like, I'm holding out and I'm going to, you got to sign me. I'm not going to sign that, that he's not doing that number. He wants to be here. He wants to play. The Titans have made it very clear between Robinson and Vrabel and the press conferences going like, no, it's our goal to sign him to a deal. Like, we're just, we got to work through it. I think some of that will also depend on where we fall with Clowney. I think if you sign Clowney, I don't think you're going to see Henry signing an extension until after the season. Just because you're talking about if 17 million is going to be tied up right there. Like, I don't think Derrick Henry is probably going to sit there and complain about having Jadeveon Clowney signing to the Titans and knowing that our defense will take a step up further. I don't think that's going to be an issue on his end. I don't think he's going to complain that our team is better by him sticking with his franchise tag for a season. Obviously, I think if we get into next year and we try to tag him again, I think that becomes a bigger issue than us just out. Like, I think we need to sign him. But there is the whole kind of added of, look at Todd Gurley, signed a giant deal, and now is no longer playing on the team he signed a giant deal with because he took a pretty drastic step back. I think Derrick Henry is built completely differently. He's not he is a very fast man, right? But he's not a speed back. He's not I'm going to make you miss in the hole and stuff like that. He is a Jerome Bettis type. Like, I'm going to make contact, run through you. Yeah. But he does have the pull away speed. Like, Jerome Bettis did not have that. But he's a different build. He's just a different build. Like, you're not sitting there worrying about, okay, whether or not he's going to make this crazy cut and blow out his leg or something like that. I mean, obviously, any player on any team could have a major injury at any given point, but the way he's built is not I'm using my agility to get around everybody. I mean, he is right. I think I saw the stat that I think he would have been like third or fourth in the league in rushing yards if it had just been yards after contact, which is insane. Like, it's not like he's breaking off these long home run hits, but it's after he breaks a tackle at the line of scrimmage. Like, it's insane, like how he's built. It's just, it's impressive. I mean, I can see him playing for the Titans for the next 5 years, like, and not really losing much of a step, like having almost like an Eddie George type career where he's going for 5, 6, 7 years, and playing at a high level pretty much the whole way through.
I'm getting fired up just thinking about it. I think that because that's always, with the exception of Chris Johnson, that's been like a lack. DeMarco Murray, he had a couple good years. I guess it's not 100% true with me saying that, but there were a couple of years where you're just like, what are we doing at the running back position?
Bishop Sankey.
Oh, dear God.
We could have drafted Carlos Hyde, but we chose Bishop Sankey.
The first running back taken.
Yeah.
And we had so many options. I forget who else was in that draft class, but if you look at it, he wasn't even in the top 5. Hindsight. But yeah, dude, Derrick Henry, he is built differently. Now, people that are not Titans fans that are listening right now, if all you saw was the playoffs, which is probably most of you, unless you're in Tennessee and they're always on, like one of the 1 o'clock game or the 4 o'clock game or whatever. If you just watched the playoffs, you saw a running back that had 30 plus carries a game. And I heard this all the time from other fan bases being like, there's no way that he can keep that up. Like, you guys are running him into the ground, blah, blah, blah. And my reaction to that is, okay, you think that we've been running him this much all season. I will tell you right now, and I don't know if you knew this, 8 games this year, 8 games, he had 19 carries or less.
Mm-hmm.
He is fresh still.
Mm-hmm.
And because he has that breakaway speed, I mean, we don't have to. I mean, again, the Titans' game plan is establish the run, get up early, and then just wear you down the rest of the game.
Yep.
And that works with Derrick Henry. So, he gets up and he's able to break away, for a 40 to 70 yard run. So his yards are incredible, but he's actually not carrying the ball as much. So I think people need to know that as we use him really well.
We do. And that probably speaks to a need that we need to address in the draft is getting a backup running back now that Deion's gone.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're sitting there, you're looking the second round, third round even, there's going to be some pretty decent running backs still available on that board to be able to sign. Or, I mean, if you are going veteran, this is probably predicated on not signing Clowney and signing, like a Logan Ryan and then having some money to play with. You still have guys like, Devontae Freeman that are out there, who could be a good third down back, has good hands out of the backfield and, can be a more physical Deion Lewis, I guess. You got options there. I still think we'll probably go draft on that one just so we don't have to pay somebody, $5-6 million a year. Instead, I was looking at the kind of the over the cap or kind of list all the breakdowns of our roster, and it's hilarious to see these giant playmakers for us that are making less than $2 million.
Yeah.
Eventually, we'll have to pay him and stuff like that. But AJ Brown's making $700,000. That's highway robbery right there.
Mm-hmm.
Even Jonnu, 2.1 million. With the bonuses, Michael Pruitt is making more than Jonnu Smith. So I mean, it's just things like that where you're kind of looking at it going yeah, okay, we're gonna be okay. It's fine. But you probably want somebody, not a Dalen Dawkins being your spell back for Derrick Henry. You probably want to add somebody else in there to give you some stopgap there. But
yeah, and everyone talks about getting a Thunder or Lightning. I guess for us it was the Chris Johnson and Lindell White or Linwell White. Linwell. Sorry, man. He's not listening. Who cares? But dude, everyone talks about Thunder and Lightning. Let's just get Thunder and Thunder, man. Let's make no matter who is in the backfield, of course, Derrick Henry is going to command more attention. Mm-hmm. But putting someone else back there that you're oh shit, we got to worry about this guy too.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge college football guy, but I know some of my buddies that are, and they've mentioned some bruisers out there that are probably going to be available, like you said, in the second or third round. That I think we should definitely consider going after. Because I mean, dude, Derrick Henry is not going to be here forever. No. I mean, again, if you get him for 5-6 more years and he's playing at a high level, hell of a career.
Yeah.
Not saying that if you draft someone this year that he's going to be the next future back, but
but you need to at least think that way. You need to at least think, okay, because I mean, Lord forbid, if Derrick, gets an injury and he has to miss a couple games or something like that, you don't want there to be a drastic drop off in your production at running back. There's going to be a huge drop from Derrick Henry to Dalen Dawkins. That's a huge drop off. But I mean, if you can get some, I know I'm biased as an Ohio State fan, but if J.K. Dobbins is sitting there in the second round, you don't hesitate. You pull that trigger because then you say, okay, when Derrick does need a break, we got a guy. He's not as big, right? He's 5'10", but he's 5'10", 220 or so and stuff like that, and he's a bruiser and he has breakaway speed like Derrick, but he's not going to shy away from contact. He'll run right through you if he has to. Like that would be a dynamic duo in the backfield. And when you're like, oh, thank God Derrick Henry's off the field, and you see this guy coming in and being like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I'm sure there's going to be another, Alabama running back that's probably going to be available to draft as well, probably in the second round too.
Yeah.
They pretty much have the same style, all of them. So, I'm not opposed to that either. Like, there's going to be plenty of guys out there to draft that can make an impact. Not probably in the 5th or 6th round, but probably in the 2nd or 3rd round. But it's definitely a need you address. I think you go defense in the 1st round, whether that's, addressing the defensive line if we don't sign Clowney, or, if we do sign Clowney, you go after another corner just to kind of give, some help to the secondary. And then I think in the 2nd round, you shore up that running back. I don't know if J.K. Dobbins will be there or not, but we'll see.
Yeah, man, it'll be interesting. We'll wrap up because I want to do a whole nother episode dedicated towards like the draft and mock drafts and just kind of have fun with that a little bit. But who do you think, maybe a player on both the offense and defense, or maybe just one player that you think is going to have a breakout year this year?
Let's see here.
I'll tell you mine to give you a second.
Yes, go for.
I think, and we've already talked about him a couple of times, but I believe that he's going to be a household name as far as fantasy owners are concerned. I think Jonnu Smith is going to step up in a big way this year. I mean, he's already gained the attention with the crazy catch for a touchdown in the playoff game.
Left cheek.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's like I think he has a huge potential to break out, especially now that he knows he's the starter. Walker went down. So it's like having that mentality the entire offseason that you are the starter, you just prepare differently. And you always prepare as if something might happen, but it's just a little bit different. So he's my pick to have a true breakout season compared to what we've seen.
Yeah, so I agree with you on Jonnu. And I think eventually somewhere around, probably week 5, 6, somewhere in that range, I think defenses are going to start to get smart, and they're going to start to put an extra guy on there, or they're going to put the safety on him, or they're going to, they're going to do things that are going to contain him. And I think that will open things up for Corey Davis. I think if you have to take your attention, you have to put it on Derrick Henry in the backfield, A.J. Brown on the outside, and then Jonnu Smith at tight end. Like, it's going to either benefit Corey Davis or it's going to benefit Adam Humphries. And I think, we even saw just from last year, like, your consistent wide receivers that were on the field were A.J. Brown and Corey Davis. Pretty much, week in, week out, every play, they're pretty much in on the field. So I think the more attention that you give to Humphries, to AJ, and the more attention you give to Jonnu, and then still having to stack the box to slow down Derrick Henry, that's going to leave somebody one-on-one. And Corey Davis is still, a sizable man. For sure. 6'3", 6'4", 210, 215, somewhere in that range. And like, he can, he's shown that he has the capability to go out there and dominate some defenses. Like, you'll get sparks of it, every once in a while. I think he's due, and I think he knows that he has to show up before he kind of gets into a 5th-year option ordeal with his contracts. And I think he sees what happens with, a Jack Conklin and a Marcus Mariota when you go, okay, if I get in that 5th year and they take the team option, they're saying, okay, we're not going to work on a contract re-signing. I think he knows that he has to perform this year if he wants to get an extension. And if he gets into that 5th year, he's probably going to be gone. Like, I think you have to kind of understand that now with John Robinson. So I just think there's going to be enough incentive for him to perform, and I think he's going to have the favorable matchups to perform. So that's my offensive prediction there.
Yeah. I think, defensively, you could go a lot of different routes. Honestly, I think the person who's going to step up in a major way this year is going to be Rashaan. I think Rashaan Evans is going to have a monster year this year. I think he's going to command the middle linebacker position. Him and Jayon, dude. Jayon too. Honestly, I'm going to combine them and just say our inside linebacker core is going to have a breakout year this year. And they broke out last year, you could argue, but I'm going to say even more this upcoming year.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I'm debating between like 3, but some of it is contingent on who just if we do sign Clowney, I think that's going to have a huge impact on Harold Landry. I think he's going to get those one-on-one matchups, and with that speed, I think he'll end up having 10 sacks. I'm not even saying Jadeveon's going to have that many. I'm just saying he's that big of a. We have to occupy Clowney, so that's going to free up edge rushers. If we don't, I think there'll be a lot of pressure on the secondary to perform, and I think it's weird to say it'll be a breakout year, but I think it's more kind of category for comeback player of the year with Malcolm Butler. He's been working pretty crazy hard to get back from this injury and stuff like that. I see him taking it kind of that leadership role that Logan Ryan had, and really stepping up to kind of prove that he still has it after this injury. So I could see him having a 5, 6, 7 interception year. And kind of filling that role. His biggest thing is he just can't overcommit. He has an issue with overcommitting on certain stuff like that. So if he can be more patient, if he's learned patience this last year, I think he could have a really big breakout year.
Yeah, I think Malcolm is. I think everybody knew that we overpaid him a little bit with a 5-year, $60 million or whatever it was.
Yeah, something like that.
But so he's still under contract. I think but I do agree with you that coming off this injury, I think people are going to start questioning, whether we made the right decision by keeping him on the team and starting him. I think that's going to not get to him, but I think he's just going to understand, just like you said, the situation. And he's not going to get another big time contract. We were that for him, but he can still get another maybe two-year deal with somebody else that might be worth around $8 to $10 million, maybe. He still has a lot left in the tank, but like you said, he overcommits. He tries to cut off the curl routes, and then the receiver just jukes for a long, curl and go kind of situation.
Yeah.
So, and then of course Byard looks like the idiot, but it's really Malcolm just
biting on it.
So we'll see. Again, I do like Malcolm. He shows flashes enough to keep him around. So I do agree with you on that one. Landry, fun fact. We'll end on this because I know you got a kid you got to get back to. Landry had more tackles. He had more sacks. And I believe, I guess those are the only really main categories when we talk about Pro Bowl. He had more tackles and sacks than Nick Bosa.
That's crazy.
And no one is even talking about Harold Landry.
Yeah.
It's insane, dude. I think he had the same amount of sacks, but he had it was 50% more tackles or something like that. It was, but again, it's the Titans, small market. Nobody talks about our star players or under the radar players. But I think I agree with you on that too. I think he's gonna have a breakout year for sure.
Yeah.
Well, dude, that was that was a ton of fun. It's especially with this whole coronavirus thing, getting a chance to talk Titans and just kind of
feel normal for a little bit.
Yeah, dude, it was. I had a ton of fun. I know this is your first time on. You're always welcome back. I know I have a couple of people that I have to kind of balance out and all that, but yeah, man, you'll be on again for sure. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah, dude.
But dude, stay safe out there, and yeah, man, we'll stay in touch.
Awesome. Sounds good, buddy.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks for listening, guys.